All right, everyone. Here is your Excel Basics tutorial for Econ 2106. Okay, so open up Excel. I've got a file for you to download on Georgia View. It has gas revenues. We'll get to that in a minute. And then this blank sheet. So I'm just going to start here. So what we call these squares on Excel are they're cells. And so every cell has a column and row indicator. So this cell is A1, for example, and this one is E7. And that's going to be important later when we're using the formulas to pull information from different cells. You can enter anything you want into these cells by just clicking on them and typing. So you can type text, you can type numbers, and if you hit enter, it stores it in the cell. And it's just as easy to click on them and delete them as well. You can tell Excel to be a calculator by using the equal sign. And so when you start a cell with the equal sign, you're telling Excel that I want to calculate something. And so you can type things like 2 plus 2. You'll see that spits out 4. You can easily do multiplication with the star symbol, which is on the number 8 on my keyboard. And then Excel even has little functions like if you want to take the square root of something, you can type square root. And the way that these work is you put whatever you want to take the square root of, for example, in the parentheses. We're not going to need the square root for what we're doing in class on Friday, but that's how you can do some basic math in Excel. Now let's suppose you have a data set and you want to do some calculations with the data. So let's pretend we're a gas station and we have our daily price of gasoline. I made just a random number, so there's not really any trends here. It just kind of hops around. And we have the quantities that we sold at different prices. Again, maybe a violation of supply and demand here. I just made random numbers. And here are the days that we sell gasoline. So let's suppose there's 28 days in this month. So we're February for whatever reason. So let's suppose I'm interested in figuring out how much revenue I got in that one day. So let's suppose I have 192 cars. Let's make that cars. How might I figure out how many gallons are being used? Well, let's make an assumption that every car uses 15 gallons of gasoline. And so I know some cars use less and some cars use more. So let's say on average, every car uses 15. How could I figure out the total gallons consumed in day one? Well, I could take 192 cars and multiply by 15. So the way we do that, remember you start an equal sign to do the formula. Sorry, to tell Excel to do math. And we want to take 15 gallons per car times the number of cars. All you need to do is click on the cell where that data is. And so Excel is going to say, hey, multiply 15 times whatever is in C2. You just click on it. So if we hit enter, we see that we sold 2,880 gallons of gasoline on day one. We could do the same thing for day two if we wanted to. 15 gallons per car times 117 cars, right? You get the idea. Now, if you have a real big data set, this could take a while to do this by hand. Fortunately, in Excel, what you can do is if you have any formulas that you just want to repeat, you can click this you can hover over this little square and you get the cross and you can click and drag your formula down. And what that's going to do is that's going to repeat your formula in every line, updating the cell each time that it's referencing. So you see in this case, it goes to 15 times C4. In this case, it's going to go 15 times C5 and so on. And by the way, you don't have to double click to see what's in the cell. You can always double check what's going on up here in the formula bar. So good. So there are the number of gallons we have used every day. And so given what you've learned so far in this tutorial, do you think you could figure out what our daily revenues are? We have gallons sold and price per gallon. It's another multiplication. So you could pause the video and see if you can do this on your own and fill out how much revenue is earned in each day. But it's the same type of thing, right? Equals number of gallons sold in the day times price. And so we made $7,600, almost $7,700 in that day. And we don't have to do this for every cell. We can click and drag it down and figure out how much revenue we made in each day. Okay. So suppose we wanted to know, these are like revenues in each day. Suppose we wanted to know how much revenue we made in the entire month. Well, we'd like to add all of these up. And so we could create a cell in which we just started going equals this one plus this one plus this one, right? That's very time consuming. So let's use an Excel function. Excel has a function called sum, and it's very useful. Excel now tells you usually what most of the functions do, adds all the numbers in the range of cells. Sounds like what we want. So we put our parentheses there, and you can enter every cell by clicking on it individually. But one way to take an entire range is to click on the first one and say, I want E2, put a colon, all the way through E29. Close your parentheses, hit enter. So we can see that over the month, we made $148,782.60 by selling gasoline. Another quick way to kind of get some statistics over a range of data is you can just click and drag and highlight the whole thing, and Excel will give you some information here. So here's our sum that we calculated. It tells us how many non-empty cells we have, and it tells us the average. So on average, we made $5,300 per day selling gasoline. All right, that should be enough for us to do our assignment on Friday. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me or ask me in class.